I enjoyed this morning by seeing so many young people, very clever people, very, strong academicians speaking about the future. But unfortunately, 60% of that I didn't understand, which means that I belong definitely to the analog generation and not to the digital generation. So, disappearing species, let's say so, in that way. But even we can say something which I believe can be useful for the new generation. Speaking about the modern economy, I have to say at the beginning that whatever was normal 10 years ago was not normal 10 years ago. It's becoming normal these years. Few examples. I was elected to be the prime minister of one of the two entities in Bosnia. And that was just 5 years after the war, the most difficult time. We had at that time high representative who could dismiss us, politicians who had the full power, who can change the laws, everything. And they had the key tool in their hands, which was IMF, International Monetary Fund. One of my duty was to privatize the banking sector. And they were very tough at that time. They said, no single penny of the state capital in the banks, because this is the communist approach. This is something which is unacceptable for the free market. There was even a punishment for us in the government, in the criminal code, if we don't succeed in that we can go to the jail. There was even a law which said if there is a remaining state capital there, this bank will lose the license. We did that. 7 years after that, after this collapse of the real estate in the United States and after the banking crisis, same IMF said only state capital can support the banking industry to survive. Private capital in the bank, not acceptable at all. And the European Union and all the world basically pressed the governments to push the state capital in the banking industry. So what was normal? First or second? Another example. One of the key pillars of the modern economy was free international trade. Can you imagine how it was difficult for some of the countries to enter the World Trade Organization? Because we were pressed that we are doing all what was to protectionism approach, everything. Who cares today about the World Trade Organization? The key player states introduced the highest possible custom duties. Completely different. What is the future of the modern economy in that case? What are the rules? Is there any rule? And this is just two parts. There are so many possible examples in some other areas. But what worries me even more is that there is no rule at all, especially on the political level. If for someone it's completely unacceptable, Russian aggression in Ukraine, I have to say the same has to be applied for that what America did just recently in Venezuela. If we want to stay with the same principles, if we want to play the game, we can say this is a little bit different. But then, if you ask yourself, essentially what is the different, very difficult to find the answer. I think that I am a little bit happy or lucky to be too old not to live in unpredictable new circumstances which I see. Maybe I'm a little bit too old and a little bit too pessimistic because of that. But if I compare what we have now with the 30s, before the Second World War, you can find so many similarities, so many similarities. Germany first, America first. Who has the power, the military power, will be the leader. Where are the basic values of the 70s, of the 80s, human rights, freedom of speech? free economy. There is almost nothing like that. And honestly, I wouldn't like to live in that way of the society. Again, maybe I'm too pessimistic. But unfortunately, I believe that I'm very realistic that we are entering some time which will be full of the challenges. And it will be not so easy, especially for the small countries. All of us who are coming from the small countries, we could write the books about our experience, and especially about our experience with the big players. No, I was a very long politician in Bosnia, and as I said, even now we have a high representative who can write to dismiss all the elected politicians, who had the right to impose the laws. I am finally out of the politics, so that means I survived them, so it is one of my biggest success. But to be under the big powers, if there are no principles, it's really not easy. It's really not easy, and I completely understand the Prime Minister of Palestine, how difficult it is to try to find your space in that. Almost extremely, extremely difficult. So slowly I am trying to write a book about my experience, and Jackie Collins, the writer, said, write the book, All My Lovers. So I will have a book, All My High Representatives, with almost the same experience. Thank you very much.